Alrighty guys, welcome to our college basketball free pick video here today for Tuesday, January 24th, 2023. My name is Brock Page. I've been doing sports picks for free on YouTube since 2016. And if you want to see which one of these free plays on this video that I'm actually betting on personally, you may want to think about signing up for my all-inclusive full access board member package on my website. Board members get access to every single personal play, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. The math works out to be just $1.66 a day. Cheaper than a McDouble, much cheaper than a Starbucks, a Dunkin' Donuts, a Wawa Hoagie. I currently have over 575 members who are signed up and active on that site right now. With that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to take a look at Penn State at Rutgers, 6:30 p.m. East. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights are minus 6.5, totals 129 and a hook. Now, the Scarlet Knights lost 2 out of their last 4, and they've had all kinds of problems on offense. They're making only 31% of their three-pointers, and they actually have one of the lower offensive field goal percentages at home in the Big Ten. And as good as Rutgers has been on defense, they've actually had some issues grabbing defensive boards at home. They're facing a Penn State team who got the W in 7 out of their last 10. Victories over the likes of Indiana, Iowa, and Illinois. Now, the Nittany Lions are one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. They're drilling just about 40% of their three-pointers as a team. They're actually in the top 15 in the nation in that category. Now, Seth Lundy and Andrew Funk, they're both drilling over 42% of their long balls, respectively. And, of course, Jalen Pickett, he leads the team with over 17 points a game. Now, when it comes to defensive play, the Nittany Lions are giving up just 67 points per contest. When it comes to the total, Penn State saw unders recently against the likes of Wisconsin, Delaware State, and Illinois. Meanwhile, Rutgers saw 4 out of their last 6 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Penn State plus 6.5, under 129 and a hook. Next matchup, we're going to stay in the Big Ten. I'm talking about Ohio State at Illinois, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Illinois is the 4-point favorite at home, totals 144. Now, the Illini's 9-2 straight up at the State Farm Center. They played some incredibly tough defense this year. Illinois is allowing just 64 points per contest, and they limit their opponents to just 40% shooting from the field. Terry Shannon, he has a team-high 26 steals on the year. He's also the team's leading scorer with 18 points a game. Matthew Mayer, he's also averaging double-digit points a game himself. They're facing an Ohio State team who lost 5 out of their last 6, and they covered only 1 time during that span. When it comes to defensive play, the Buckeyes are allowing nearly 73 points a game away from home. Now, they're also amongst the worst in the Big Ten in road defensive boards. Now, total-wise, Ohio State saw overs against the likes of Iowa, Maryland, and Purdue. Meanwhile, Illinois saw 3 out of their last 5 get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Illinois minus 4 over 144. Next contest, Miami, Florida State, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Miami's the 3-point favorite on the road, totals 150. Now, the reason why we're seeing such a generous number here for Miami, it's actually due to the fact that their leading scorer is questionable. Isaiah Wong may not suit up here tonight. Looks like he's got some kind of illness. He's sick or something like that. And I'll tell you what, out of these teams' last 10 head-to-head meetings, the Noles have actually been pretty dominant. They went 9-1 straight up against the Canes during that time frame. And speaking of the Noles, they covered in their last 3 straight, 7-3 against the spread in their last 10. When the Noles play in the Tucker Center, they certainly like to cover there as well. Florida State's covering in 70% of their contests in front of their own fans. Darren Green Jr., he's drilling over 42% of his three-pointers, and he leads the team in scoring. Meanwhile, Matthew Cleveland scores over 14 points a game himself. He's also making 43% of his long balls. Now, injury-wise, Florida State saw 5 out of their last 8 get over the number. Meanwhile, Miami saw overs recently against the likes of Syracuse, NC State, and Boston College. I'm going to lean toward the underdog, Florida State Seminoles, +3 over 150. Next game, LSU at Arkansas, 7 o'clock East. Arkansas is -13, totals 139. And as bad as LSU's been, Arkansas has failed to cover in 6 out of their last 7 themselves. And when Arkansas plays at home, well, the Razorbacks are covering in just 40% of those home games. Now, one of Arkansas's biggest problems on offense is their inability to shoot the 3 ball. These guys are making just 29% of their shots from beyond the arc this year. They're also facing an LSU team who's one of the best teams in the country in guarding the three-pointer. They're actually in the top 20 in defensive three-point percentage. KJ Williams has 26 steals on the year. He's also scoring a team-high 17 points a night, along with 43% shooting from three-land. Meanwhile, Adam Miller, he's averaging just about a dozen points a game himself. When it comes to the total, LSU went 60% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, Arkansas went 70% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward LSU +13, under 139. Next matchup, it is going to be Missouri taking on Ole Miss, and that'll be a 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Ole Miss is -1, totals 145. Despite playing some horrible basketball lately, the Rebels are taking on a Missouri team who's got a banged-up leading scorer right now. Kobe Brown, who leads the Tigers in scoring, he's currently questionable with an ankle injury. Missouri also lost 3 out of their last 4 road games. Now, they're allowing 75 points a night while traveling, and they're one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the SEC. They're facing an Ole Miss squad who's one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the conference themselves. Jamin Brakefield, he's averaging nearly 6 rebounds a game. He also ranks Wow! Really struggling getting that one out. Jamin Brakefield, he's averaging nearly 6 rebounds a game, and he ranks 2nd on the team in scoring. Meanwhile, Matt Morrell, he's scoring just about 15 points a game, which is a team high. Injury-wise, Malik Ewan is questionable for the Rebels. Meanwhile, for Missouri, once again, leading scorer Kobe Brown is questionable with an ankle. Now, when it comes to the total, 3 out of Missouri's last 4 road games stayed under. Meanwhile, Ole Miss saw 8 out of their last 9 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Ole Miss -1, under 145. Next matchup, it is going to be Oklahoma taking on TCU. And that's going to be an 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. TCU's the 7-point favorite at home. Total's 138. And for a team laying 7 points in this spot here, the Horned Frogs have certainly had their hands full with Oklahoma in recent meetings. They lost 8 out of their last 10 contests against the Sooners. TCU also took the loss in 3 out of their last 5 this season. Losses to the likes of West Virginia, Texas, and Iowa State, all conference opponents. Now, TCU is one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country. They're making only 28% of their three-pointers in their own arena. They're facing an Oklahoma team who's one of the best teams in the nation in guarding the three-pointer themselves. These guys limit their competition to just 26% shooting from three-land on the road. And no real shock here, guys. The Sooners allowed just 64 points a game. Greg Sherfield has 15 steals on the year, 17 points a game for the guard, which is a team high. Sherfield's also knocking down over 44% of his three-pointers. Now, Tanner Groves, he's scoring 10.5 points a game himself. When it comes to the total, OU saw unders against the likes of Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. Meanwhile, TCU saw their last 2 straight stay under the line. I'm going to lean toward Oklahoma +7, keeping this one close. Under 138. Next ball game, it is going to be North Carolina taking on Syracuse, 9 o'clock Eastern tip-off. UNC's the 4-point favorite, totals 150. Now, the Tar Heels got the W in 8 out of their last 10, and they're one of the best scoring teams in the nation. The Tar Heels are averaging 80 points a game, and they're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. Armando Bacot, he averages nearly a dozen boards a night. He's actually 5th in the country in that category. Meanwhile, RJ Davis and Caleb Love, they're scoring over 16 points a night, respectively. And in these teams' last 10 head-to-head meetings, UNC got the W 8 times. Fairly lopsided there. They're facing a Syracuse team who's probably going to get out-rebounded here tonight. They're amongst the worst in the ACC in defensive boards per game. They're also allowing nearly 71 points a game on the defensive end of the court as well. And when it comes to the total, no real surprise here. Syracuse saw their last 8 straight all get over the number. They're also 67% to the over as the official home team. I'm going to lean toward North Carolina -4 over 150. Next matchup, it is going to be Kentucky at Vanderbilt, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Kentucky's -5, totals 144.5. Now, the Wildcats won their last 3 straight, and they've been quite dominant over Vandy throughout the past couple of years. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, not many teams do it better than Kentucky. They're in the top 35 in defensive boards, top 15 in offensive rebounding on the road. Of course, all of that is thanks to Oscar Tshiebwe, who averages an NCAA best 14 rebounds a game. He's also averaging a team-high 16 points a night as well. Meanwhile, Antonio Reeves and Kason Wallace, they're both shooting just about 40% from three-land respectively. Now they're facing a Vandy team on the other side who's been pretty bad covering at home. These guys are covering the number in just 27% of their contests at Memorial Gym. They're also one of the worst field goal shooting teams at home in the SEC. Now, injury-wise, Miles Keefe, he is currently questionable for the Commodores. Meanwhile, for Kentucky on the other side, Damian Collins is questionable with a foot. When it comes to the total, Kentucky saw 8 out of their last 9 get over the line. Meanwhile, Vandy went 6-3 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Kentucky -5 over 144.5. Next contest, it is going to be K-State taking on Iowa State, and that'll be a 9 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Iowa State's the 5-point favorite at home, totals 134. Now, the Cyclones have been absolutely dominant at home. They're 10-0 straight up in the Hilton Coliseum. They're also holding their opponents to just 52 points a game in their own building. Gabe Koster has 30 steals on the season, along with 12 points a game. Meanwhile, spit it out, Brock. Come on, dude. Jaron Holmes, he's averaging nearly 13 points a night himself. They're facing a K-State team who gives up just way too many points on the road. These guys are giving up 82 points a game when they travel. And no real surprise here, guys. The Wildcats are letting their opponents make 48% of their field goals against them on the road. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, K-State went 4-1 to the over in their last 5 road games. Meanwhile, Iowa State saw 5 out of their last 7 get over the line. I'm going to lean toward Iowa State -5 over 134. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Oklahoma State taking on Texas. And that'll be a 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Texas is -8, totals 135. I definitely don't like this big number here for the Longhorns. They've been one of the worst covering teams in the Big 12 lately. They're just 3-7 against the spread in their last 10. And they've had some problems grabbing defensive boards at home. They're facing an Oklahoma State team who's one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the Big 12, especially on the road. When it comes to covering the point spread, the Cowboys went 6-3 against the number in their last 9. Bryce Thompson's leading the team in scoring, and he's knocking down just about 40% of his 3 balls. Very good shooting from beyond the arc. Meanwhile, Avery Anderson, he's scoring 11 points a game himself. Now, when it comes to the total, Oklahoma State did see overs recently against the likes of the Sooners and Virginia Tech Hokies. Meanwhile, Texas went 80% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Oklahoma State +8 over 135.